What's going on, guys? Danny here. Time for another sim racing video. If you happen to see my review for Project Cars 2, you will know that I really enjoyed that game. Actually, I am currently enjoying it. It's probably my favorite sim. It did knock Assetto Corsa off the podium for me, at least for a little while. And now I know it's not a full sim-on racer, but the fact that it has so much to offer, really good graphics, and does so well in virtual reality, I just can't help but spend a lot of time in it. But you know, I had to do this at some point in time, so I wanted to go ahead and get this out of the way. And this video is going to be the 5 things that I hate about Project Cars 2. Now, I will say that it was very difficult for me to find 5 things. There were a few things that I definitely don't like about Project Cars 2, but to find 5 things that I really disliked about it was very tough. It's just that good of a game. But I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know what I thought, so without further ado, we'll get right into it. So the first problem, or the first thing that I hate about Project Cars 2 is what I like to call, in quotations, premium cars. Now, if you remember back quite some time ago, 2 or 3 versions of the Gran Turismo series back, maybe Gran Turismo 2, Gran Turismo 3, if I'm remembering correctly, they had something called premium cars. Basically, there were a group of cars in the game that had really good detail in the graphics, really good interior cameras, really good engine sounds, etc. You know, they were really nice premium cars. And then there was a bunch of filler cars that didn't have an interior camera. The poly count on the exterior of the cars was just down really bad. If you know the Gran Turismo series, you know what I'm talking about. Well, they don't really have that specifically in Project Cars 2, but I feel like in a way we do have that situation. Because you can get in some cars, like the Jetta GT4, and it feels so good, and it sounds so good, and the physics are on point, and graphically it looks amazing, and it's really fun to drive. And then you can get in some other cars, like for example, the Raptor, the F-150 Raptor, and it just doesn't feel as good. It doesn't feel as polished. I almost would say that they were rushed. So in a way, I kind of feel like Project Cars 2 has premium cars and then not premium cars, and I really think that that's kind of a shame, because I'm the kind of person that likes to take every car for a drive, and it's just a little bit disappointing when sometimes you hop into a car that's just not as polished in a game. So that is number 1. Number 2 on my list of the 5 things that I hate about Project Cars is the pendulum physics. So in Project Cars 1, they had a problem where once the car started to snap oversteer, there was no correcting it. Once you started going around, that was it, and you basically spun and went off the track. Well, they definitely have fixed that in Project Cars 2, because you can surely correct when you start to have a error in your driving. You know, if you start to go around, you can counter steer, you can throttle in or off throttle. There's many things you can do to correct that, and you can straighten the car back up. Well, in a simulation, how they do that is they add in an additional physics to the tire model. Well, unfortunately, I think that they've gone too far in the other direction with Project Cars 2, because what happens is, or I tend to see at least, that if I start to lose the car and I correct it, it is able to be brought back, but it goes too far. And then for a little while, what I find is that the car just goes back and forth, like a pendulum, and I'm fighting it the whole time instead of just holding steady and keeping the car going straight. So one thing that you can do, which I noticed, is if you're using a force feedback wheel, before you start driving, if you just take your wheel and just bump it a little bit to the right and just watch it, what happens is the wheel has the pendulum effect, and that's that physics that's built into the tire model or to the physics model of every car that is designed to help you correct a issue on the track. However, it's this pendulum effect, and it just goes back and forth. So I call that the pendulum physics. I think they just need to adjust that a little bit and get that back right. Overall, the physics are great, but that is one little problem that I have with it, so that was number 2. Number 3 is the AI cars in the first corner of a race. That is something I really truly do hate. If you just stay back, stay out of their way, They may run each other off the road or they may not. It's about a 50-50 chance. But regardless if they run each other completely off the road, it is ugly. It is always ugly. They do not know how to handle the first corner on any track that I've tested. Now, if you just give them a little while and wait it out, eventually they do smooth themselves out and you can have a good race with them. But that very first corner with the AI, they have definitely got a bug. There's definitely an issue. Either they're running themselves off the road or they're going so slow that basically everyone behind them is at a standstill, including yourself if you happen to be behind them at the starting line. Number 4 is the race engineer. Now, when I first heard about the race engineer, I was very, very excited about this way back before the game even came out, because I know that this will help a lot of people, or at least it should have helped a lot of people who may not know exactly how to tune cars. It can help them and kind of teach them how to tune cars. So I was really, really stoked about this. You basically answer questions and then an adjustment is made on the car. However, there's a couple things I do not like about it now that I've had the opportunity to use it. So I've tested this pretty extensively, and sometimes the race engineer will ask you a question and you will answer it. It'll ask you another question, you'll answer it again, and it doesn't know how to fix that problem. So it tells you the best thing to do is go back to the start and then answer another question. Well, the problem is that you get into this revolving door per se, where you're answering the same questions because you're having the same problem. For example, maybe you're having an issue with your brakes or something like that, and as you're answering questions, you get to the point where they should make an adjustment on the car, but they just don't. They bring you back to the beginning and you start back over. That's very frustrating. And then when it does work, they make such minor changes that you would literally have to sit and play with that race engineer for hours and hours and hours on end just to make the slightest little bit of adjustments. So, for example, I'll use brakes again. I was messing with the race engineer, just seeing how it would work. The race engineer asked me a question, something along the lines of, are you locking up the brakes when you stop? And I said yes. So then the race engineer asked me, okay, does it feel like the front brakes are locking up or the rear brakes are locking up? I said the front brakes are locking up. And it recommended me, or said that what it could do is it could adjust the brake bias, which I know that that's what you need to do. You need to adjust the brake bias. But it was going to adjust the brake bias for me 1%. That would take forever. I would have to answer those 3 or 4 questions so many times just to get that a difference that it's insane. So I think that they need to balance that out a little better. I think it doesn't need to be 1% at a time or 1 point at a time. It needs to work a little bit better than that. I know that it's a really good concept. The race engineer is a really good concept. I was really looking forward to it, but I think it definitely needs to be worked on. It's not quite up to par. And then number 5, you'll know that I mentioned earlier that it was extremely difficult for me to find anything wrong or 5 things that I hated about Project Cars. It really, really was, because I am really enjoying this game. So my number 5 thing that I hate about Project Cars is just this. It's so good that I don't play anything else anymore. Since I've got it, since its release day, it's only been a couple of days, I have played this game and played this game and played this game, and I haven't even thought about or considered loading up any other sim or any other game I have. They're just collecting dust. So that's pretty funny, but yeah, that's my 5th thing. It's so good that I'm now ignoring my other games, and that's kind of a problem, because when you ignore games, especially like iRacing, you know, you get kind of rusty, and then when you go back trying to race, you have issues and things like that. So the number 5 thing is it's so good that I don't play anything else. Like I said, guys, Project Cars 2 is really good. If you haven't tried it, I urge you to check it out, even if you're the most die-hard simulation racer, because it is that good. It's not a sim. It's a simcade, but it's still a really, really good racing game. If you haven't seen my review, I will link that in the description. Go check out my review for the game, because it is really, really amazing and a lot of fun. So that's it. That's the 5 things that I hate about Project Cars 2. If you guys enjoyed this, please drop a like. Let me know what you hate or what you love about Project Cars 2. Let me know that down in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video.